All right, if you're gearing up for your German exam, you know the stakes are pretty high. But have you ever stopped to wonder how they actually decide whether you walk away with an A2 or a B1 certificate? You know, it's not nearly as complicated as it seems, and today we are going to crack that exact code. So you've poured all this energy into listening, reading, writing, speaking, all these different skills, but how on earth do they all come together to decide your final result? It kind of feels like this big, mysterious black box, right? Well, I promise you, by the end of this, you'll see it's actually super straightforward. So here's the game plan. We're going to look at the three main pillars your exam is built on. Then, and this is the big one, we'll cover the one rule you absolutely have to know. And after that, we'll dive into the nitty-gritty of exactly what scores you need for an A2 and what you need for a B1.
Okay, so let's get into it. The very first thing you need to do is just forget everything you think you know about how exams are usually graded. This isn't about averaging your scores. Nope. Your entire certificate, whether it's A2 or B1, hinges on your performance in just three specific areas. I like to call them the three exam pillars. So what are these pillars? Well, the first one is actually two skills lumped together, listening and reading, or hören und lesen. That gets you one combined score. The second pillar is your writing, your schreiben. And the third one, and you're going to want to pay close attention to this one, is speaking, or sprechen. And that's it. Just those three results. Nothing else matters for that final certificate.
Okay, but before we even talk about scores and combinations, there's one golden rule. This is the big one, the absolute non-negotiable part of this whole thing that can make or break your result. Honestly, if you forget everything else I say today, remember this. And here it is. The speaking section is the key. It is everything. You could be a genius, get a perfect B1 in reading, a perfect B1 in writing, but if you score below A2 in speaking, you get nothing. No certificate. Game over. It's like the final boss, the ultimate gatekeeper. Yeah, think of it exactly like this. Your speaking score is literally the key to a door. If you get an A2 or B1, congrats, you've unlocked the door. A certificate is now possible. But if you score below A2, that door is slammed shut and locked. Doesn't matter how great your other scores are, you're not getting through. All right, so let's say you did it. You got at least an A2 in speaking. The door is open. Awesome. So now what? What does it take to actually walk through that door with an A2 certificate in your hand? This is actually where the system gets kind of cool and surprisingly forgiving. So we know you need that A2 in speaking. That's a given. But after that, you only need to get an A2 in one of the other two sections, just one. So you could totally have an off day on your writing, for example, as long as your listening and reading is up to snuff, and you'll still get that A2 certificate.
Just take a look at this table. It shows you all the different ways this can play out. I mean, case one is the obvious one, right? A2 across the board. Easy. But check out something like, case 7. This is wild. You could actually score below A2 in listening and reading, but because you nailed an A2 in writing and you got that all-important A2 in speaking, you still pass. You still get your certificate. It really shows you can make up for one weak spot. Okay, that's A2 covered, but what about B1? You're aiming high, right? So what does it take to get that B1 certificate? Well, as you might guess, the bar gets raised a little bit. Remember that speaking key? Well, for B1, you need a better key. You have to get a B1 in speaking. That's the new minimum to even be in the running. And then, on top of that, you also have to get a B1 in at least one of the other two parts, either listening and reading or writing. And here are the combinations for B1. As you can see, there are only 5 ways to do it. Case 1, of course, is the dream. B1, B1, B1. But look at case 4. This one's interesting. You could get an A2 in listening and reading, but as long as you get a B1 in writing, and, most importantly, that B1 in speaking, you've got it. The B1 certificate is yours. So, we've gone through all the rules, all the possible combos. What does this actually mean for you, for how you prepare? What's the big takeaway here? Look, it all comes down to this. Focus on your speaking. Seriously, it is the one part of the exam you cannot afford to mess up. It's the key that unlocks the whole thing. If you're trying to figure out how to spend your study time, this is it. Put your energy here. A great speaking score gives you so much breathing room, even if another part doesn't go perfectly on exam day. And that's it. That's the blueprint. The mystery is gone. You know exactly how this works now. You know the rules of the game. So the question isn't, how do they grade this anymore? The new question is, now that you know, what's your plan? What's your strategy?